Happy Tuesday, everybody. Today is November the 17th, and we are still learning to represent multiplication with arrays. We're doing this because we want to be able to find a total quickly, and when we have equal groups, multiplication is the way to go. We're going to need our manipulative slide today. You can use it in your classwork. You can use it to help you find the answer or the product of a multiplication problem if you use the counters that are here in the corner. You can make an array yourself, or you can make up numbers just to practice by using the spinner and spinning it twice to get the number and the numbers you want to multiply, and then do your counters to match it. So again, we are working on arrays for multiplication. Now, we've learned three strategies thus far on how to use those strategies to help us with getting the product of a multiplication problem when we don't know basic facts. And it's perfectly okay not to know those facts yet, because we are learning other methods or other strategies that help us get those. And you're going to have to be able to see pictures that and write a multiplication sentence that matches based on the picture you see. So right now we're working on arrays to help us with that. And we are learning to represent multiplication using those arrays to show the problem. We should be able to find repeated addition sentences that match as well. So let's go ahead and start out with this picture. I want you to think about what you notice. And then I also want you to think about, what do you still wonder? If you look at that picture, what do you notice about that picture? And then I want you to think about what you wonder. So go ahead and pause the video and take a look at that and get some ideas about what you see in that picture, because a lot of times math is about what we see as well. We need to gather that information, and then we need to start thinking mathematically about what we would do with that particular picture to solve a particular math problem. So take a look at that and decide what you notice, and what do you still wonder about it. So pause your video and try to figure it out. In this particular slide, we notice that there are some cars that are in rows. And you might see something like this at a car dealership where they line them up in equal rows. But in this particular case, we do see some cars. In these, I see 4 rows, and I see 6 columns. I wonder how many cars there are altogether. So we all may have something different that we notice about the picture, and we also have something different that we may wonder still about the picture. So come up with your own ideas on there, but those are things that I wondered and I noticed, and yours may be a little different. So, and that's okay, because our goal is to now think about how we could use some type of mathematical process to help us figure out possibly how many cars in all. I wonder how many cars there are. And I want to know methods that would help me figure that out. So we're going to go ahead and go to where we can think about rows and columns here. And remember that yesterday's assignment, we talked about this representing the rows. Rows are kind of going into a movie theater. If I was walking into a movie theater this way, this would be the backs of the seats. So I wouldn't climb over them. I would walk down to the row, which is here on the side. So our rows are going to be represented here. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows here. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 4 rows. And then the next thing that we're going to look at is the columns. The columns are vertical. So this is what's filling up my rows. Now I'm starting to see that my rows are filling up. So in this row, I have 6 cars. I also have 6 cars in the second row, 6 cars in the third row, 6 cars in the fourth row. So I know that I'm going to have 6 in each row, and I have 6 columns. So I'm counting this way now: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get my columns. Now, if I'm trying to write a multiplication sentence that represents how many rows and how many columns I have, then I'm going to do rows first, So I'm going to have 4 times 6. I also can come down here and write a repeated addition sentence. Now remember when we were writing repeated addition sentences, we were taking the first number, and that tells me how many times I should see the second number repeated. So in this particular case, I'm going to see 6 repeated 4 times. So I'm going to have 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. So I have 4 groups of 6 or 4 rows of 6. So now I can apply that same thing that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks to an array. And now I want to think about what is the total here? What is the total number of cars? I could use that repeated addition sentence that we wrote. I could use the multiplication if I know my basic facts. I could count all the cars one by one and just do a normal counting by one. I could count by my fours by doing 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. I could use my repeated addition sentence and do my sixes. 6, 12, 18, 24. So there's multiple ways to get the answer or the product to 4 times 6 or 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Again, here's another picture that I want you to think about. I want you to think about what you notice and then come up with some questions about what you wonder about this picture. So go ahead and pause your video now and come up with some ideas. All right, so the first thing I noticed that there are suns in this picture, which makes me wish that today was going to be a warmer day. I know that it's supposed to be really, really cold today, so we're all going to wish that we had some sunshine today. In the comments and on the turn-in page, put in what kind of weather we are expected to have today. I know you've been working on that with Miss O'Brien, so let me know what kind of weather in the private comments we're going to have today. So what I notice in this particular picture is I notice there are 3 rows of suns, and in each row there are 8. So I see 3, 6, 8 suns in each row. What I wonder is how many suns are there in this picture? So I'm thinking in my mind, how would I figure out how many total suns are there in this picture? So again, we can break this down by rows and columns. Remember, rows are here like where you would walk in to sit at a movie theater. Not going to be climbing over no seats. So we're going to walk down to each row. So we got 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 rows. And I'm going to be now looking at the columns. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I have 8 columns. Now, if we're writing that multiplication sentence, remember we're going to write rows first because we're writing a sentence that represents the picture. Now, if I'm just looking for a product, again, I could switch those numbers around, but I am representing the picture here. So my multiplication sentence needs to match what I see in the picture. So there's going to be 3 rows times 8 columns. And again, I'm going to be thinking about how I can write a repeated addition sentence that works here. So I know that I should have 3 groups of 8. So 8's my number that's going to be repeated, and I'm going to repeat that 3 times. Now, again, I want to think about how I can get the answer to this particular problem. Now, if I'm just looking for a product, I could count by my 3's if that's easier for me. I could count by my 8's if that's easier for me. So, and if I count by my 8's, it's the same as my repeated addition sentence. So I could do 8, 16, 24 to get the product, or I could do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So, and count by my 3's. So if I'm looking for the product in this particular problem, my product's going to be 24. And I just did this slide to show you what represents rows, what represents columns. So if I'm thinking about rows, again, I'm thinking about going into that movie theater. My door's back here. I'm not going to climb over the seats. I'm going to walk down to each row before I sit down. So I always think of rows relating to that movie theater. And columns are going to be the actual sections of seats within that row. And these are what fills up the row. So I'm looking at columns going this way. Now remember, just because our rows are represented here, we still count those when we're counting our columns. So we're going to start here and we're going to have 1, 2 columns. If I'm counting my rows, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 rows. So remember, when we're counting, that still counts when I'm counting those columns. So I would have 2 columns and 3 rows. Now that you've watched the video, I want you to finish the problem of the day, and I want you to work on IXL E6. And in that particular lesson for today on IXL, they're going to show you a picture, and you're going to complete a multiplication sentence that matches the picture. So it's going to be very important that you understand what rows are and what columns are, because you're going to have to fill those in based on what you see. Make sure that you get all your work finished. If you did not get yesterday's assignment complete, you always have the opportunity to go back and finish that today as well. Just let me know by turning it in once it's complete. Now, as in regards to turning in, make sure that when you turn in that you have completed your video watching, your IXL, and the problem of the day before you hit turn in. Do not turn in until all 3 of those are complete. I am giving you credit for watching the video. If you don't make a comment within that comment section to answer the question that I ask, then I will not be giving you credit for the video, which will knock you out of getting to be part of that drawing on Mondays. So keep that in mind as you are working on that. So make sure that you have everything complete that's on my list before you hit turn in. I hope everybody has a great day. Go get busy and get your work finished so you can enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.